down there?
Okay, yeah, slow, really slow. But
I know the feeling well.
yeah, but it's okay, you know. I'm trying not to think in I'm really trying not to think in terms of end points, like getting to the end. I'm just trying to be engaged in the moment and try to remember that I'm really interested in everything I'm doing, and that's a good sign.
Yeah. Really hard to do that though, isn't it?
Oh, really hard. Yeah, really hard. I know the pressure gets to you eventually.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for speaking to me.
Sorry, long to get together, but
I know, it's my fault. Anyway, I wanted to speak to you because I missed behaviour so far because I've been away. So I wanted to just try to catch up with a couple of artists who were presenting and maybe just get a sense of how they feel about the work that they've made and maybe some little things. So I wondered if I could just ask you a couple of questions.
yeah, great. Perfect.
Great. Okay, so I'll start with a really vague one, which we've kind of spoken about anyway. But I was wondering, you might not be able to answer this, and that's absolutely fine. But I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about the intentions behind the work for you.
Okay. I guess for me it was about creating something. It was about creating a show that was friendly for the general public, for the non-disabled audience, to give them a sense of what having a body that was disabled, what that was like, but in a way that wasn't too ranty, it wasn't too angry, you know, it could be quite approachable. So that was sort of the core intention, and because of that I wanted to base it around stories and make it quite accessible to a wide audience. So it's just stories of people talking about their own bodies and what that means to them.
Great. And how successful do you feel like it was for you, Robert, as the creator? How happy are you with whether those intentions were met or not?
I'm very happy. It's probably the first time that I've been completely in charge of a show from concept to finished product. So it's the first time that I had complete control over that process. And yeah, it's the first time that I got to the opening night and realised that I created the thing that I had envisioned at the start. You know how usually you start off with an idea and by the time you get to the end it's gone haywire. This time it's all felt quite, I wanted to create a one-man show about stories and that's what I created. So I was very happy with the end result. Not because it was perfect, but it was what I wanted to create.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And do you feel, how did you feel doing this work as part of the Behaviour Festival? Did you feel like this was a good context for this piece of work in particular?
Very much so, very much so. Because I always said back at the start, like, I wanted it to be in between live art and theatre. You know, it's theatre in the it's about storytelling, but there was quite a lot of audience interaction, and I think the context of behaviour helped to set that up. And I think if this show had been in the main house at the Crown, people wouldn't have got up and helped me take my clothes off. So, because during the actions, people were more up for that sort of thing. I think it was the ideal context. And it's something that as I think about taking the show forward, I have to be very aware of what that context gave me and how I can replicate that elsewhere.
Great. And did the audience or did were there any surprises in the work for you, maybe from the audience or just from doing it, things that you didn't expect that suddenly became clear, or?
I mean, it's funny, so the setting of third dress rehearsal, we had a number of audience members there who I didn't know, and I think my fear had been that people wouldn't get up and get involved, but actually the problem ended up being that people would get up, but they wouldn't sit back down. so they sort I really had to work out how to get rid of people in a way that was still quite friendly and still quite nice. So, yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I guess also, I mean, at the start I had this idea that the stories were powerful enough by themselves to do the work, and that they didn't require any great character to bring them, that they could just stand up for themselves. And then working with the director and with a couple of mentors, there was quite a lot of fear around that and whether that would work. But actually at the end of the day it did work quite well. A lot of people came out saying that they didn't know which parts were me and which parts were other characters, and they got the characters all mixed up. Now, my gut instinct is to say that's a problem because you want clarity, but actually for this show I quite like that people think, was that Robert? Or, you know, particularly I talk about my daughter. Yeah, I haven't got a daughter, but that's one of the people I work with. And yeah, I quite like that vagueness. I think that worked well for what I was trying to do.
Great. And I just noticed, Robert, there that you talked a little bit about some fear about whether things would work and whether things wouldn't work. And I was wondering if you would be comfortable talking about whether there are any things personal things that you've had to overcome in this process of making and presenting this work.
Personal things I had to overcome.
Or things to deal with.
I mean, the other thing of being a one-man show and having to carry a show for 55 minutes is quite a challenge, but the one that seemed to work. I'm thinking other I guess there's also that question about creating characters on stage. And part of my fear was, am I a good enough actor, whether that is to create all of these different characters, and by not going down that route was I kind of checking out of it. But I think the way it eventually went is the best way to go, because there was quite a lot of questions in my head about it. Am I doing this because it's the best thing to do, or am I doing it because this is the easier thing to do? So that probably was a challenge artistically to go what's the best way. And also there were real moments of complete crisis of confidence. I wanted to get being awake all night going, this is complete crap that will never work with. I was almost under the jacket, we had to cancel the whole thing. You know, we all go through that phase, but this was quite I think I didn't bring anyone else to take responsibility for this. It was all down to me. So that was a new challenge to deal with that and to have a bit of confidence that it would work.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, so if you could, because I didn't see the work, obviously. I hope one day that I do get to see it. But I was wondering if you had to describe to me the work in like a couple of sentences, or why don't we say, if you could describe what you think it might feel like to see the work in a couple of sentences, what would you say?
Working with two ways to see your work. So you're basically watching a guy in a suit on a big white chair talking about stories about his body and how that works in the world. And a lot of them are quite intimate, quite personal stories about, how his mum responded to his body. And then there's other stories that are much more vague. And that's when the other characters come into play. But essentially, it's a storytelling hour but I think also there's a lot of physicality built into that. So you're watching me move around, and that I think is like a crucial part of what the play does. Every time I try and do that, see it in a couple of sentences, it always goes wrong. There's also this, with this, yeah, essentially that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, and I just got a couple more questions. So, I wondered if you had a favourite moment, Robert, either in the process of making the work or in the actual work itself. If you had to pick a favourite moment, what would that moment be and why?
There's a line very near the end of the play that I always like. I don't know why, but the line goes, wrapping yourself in the utter joy of being someone else's arms. I mean, it's something quite simple with the line, but it just, yeah. I like the way that line works. Every night I quite look forward to doing that line. Yeah, that would be a favourite, yeah.
Lovely. And finally, is there a question that I haven't asked you which you would like me to ask you?
I guess the only things about, because you asked about my intention for creating the work, but there's maybe a question before that about why bother, why was that important to create? And for me, I'm always very interested in my own perception of other people's perception of me. And then something that I get quite wound up by thinking, I think I perceive a lot of things that aren't actually there. And for me, songs like this and songs like mine, and yes, are a lot about, why am I so obsessed with what other people think, and why are we all so obsessed with that? But I still haven't got the answer to that yet, but, that's why I can keep on creating work that looks at that, so
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Robert. Robert, do you mind if I put this on the Behave blog in some way?
Yeah, great. Please do.
Brilliant. That'd be lovely.